Welcome to Who's Got Clout, Series 3, Episode 1, brought to you by Clout Forum. I'm your host, Mark Bentley, here in Western Australia, and joined by my co-host, Alex Roken, over in Russia. So together, Alex and I just love exploring the cutting edge of the creator economy and how it's adapting to the new tools that are being provided via blockchain and Web 3.0 as we step into the metaverse. One of the things we're so excited about is everywhere we look, we're seeing amazing opportunities for those who are ready to get up and be the early adopters to move in. So we're going to pride ourselves on bringing you people that are either creators themselves and learning how they're getting out there, how they're, making a living doing what they love on the new blockchains, as well as talking to the developers themselves to understand what is being built and what we can expect in the future. But today is a very special episode, and what better for the first episode of Season 3 than to jump into one of the age-old challenges of our societies, which is how do musicians and artists and creatives who traditionally have had to look for patrons, they've had to basically beg on the streets or busk or find ways to make enough money to do what they love, how can we use the tools of Web 3.0 and the new blockchains ahead to be able to change that game so that musicians themselves can start taking charge of how they bring their music to their fan base and how they monetize it without needing record companies and labels. So to hear more about that, stay tuned, check in. I've got Marlon with us. He's a 20 plus year veteran in the creation, management, and delivery of content across many mediums and platforms. Marlon is a beautiful human being, and I was blown away when I actually realized that before he started working in streaming, Marlon held various product and technology management roles in the computer graphics industry. His projects include television series like Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and he added visual effects for a number of feature films like Star Trek, Transformers, Iron Man, and animated features like Shrek and Madagascar. He's also helped develop handheld, mobile, and console games like Star Wars, The Clone Wars, for Nintendo DS, Monkey Island Special Edition 2 for iPhone, and The Force Unleashed for Xbox and PS3. So as you can see, Marlon has a lot of experience across the spectrum, and I'm excited for what you're about to listen to because it's good news. Stay tuned, make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. Always feels good, doesn't it, Marlon? Recording in progress.
Progress, yeah.
Yeah. Always makes me feel a little bit paranoid once you start the recording of these things.
It's hilarious. My one of the project managers I work with at Globant, she has a habit of starting the recording like 10 minutes into the Zoom call, so randomly.
That awkward moment when you have to press it, then all of a sudden you hear this meeting is being recorded, and everyone stops, looks at each other.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Who's Got Clout. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, we had ourselves a pre-podcast meeting. We're talking about Mousai and what you guys are up to and everything you're doing. And as I said to you in that last meeting, it's I always know if I'm going to like someone when I see a wall full of guitars on the back.
You should see the other wall. No.
Nice.
The less I play, the more guitars I have. No.
I can actually understand that. I'm sitting there just thinking about my bass. I haven't had enough time to play over the last months. It's been so full on. And then I find myself just fantasizing about a new bass and a new something. And I'm like, hey, get back in there and play.
Exactly.
You can't just go by and put them on the wall.
That was actually the inspiration for putting them behind there. I'm like, you know what? I just need to put them right there. So in between meetings, if I have 5 minutes, I can at least get a little bit in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marlon, welcome. I mean, what better way to start this podcast than to talk about music, right? Because I mean, in the end, it's what brings us together here today. So first things first, let's do you want to tell us a little bit about and the people listening in on, where we're connecting and the way we met was over your project with Mousai. Am I saying that right? Mousai?
I say Mousai, but
Mousai.
Like Diesel, Deso. Take your pick.
Tomato.
And I actually looked it up. The Greek actually is spelled the same right, but it's called mousses. in Greek. So it's like a,
Musis.
yeah.
Musis. And so what does that actually mean? Before we go into what it actually is.
Yeah, the Mousai were actually the Greek goddesses of music and the arts. And in addition to that, also of knowledge. And I thought the combination of, you know, goddesses of music plus like book of knowledge, blockchain, like that's a perfect match, perfect name for a streaming music site.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you put it into that context, it's because we'll also be, you know, putting Who's Got Clout, the podcast, up on Mousai as well, and the rest of you, right? It's you're going to be providing information, music, so it really is a very fitting name. So before we go, actually, with the name, where did the name come from? Like, how did you guys come across that? How did you connect to that?
I actually just started Google searching, and years ago, I had built a cyber mall, a prototype of a cyber mall in VR, and used a Greek name. I'm like, I'm going to check on what kind of Greek names are out there that might make sense for a music site. And I found out, I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect for music, blockchain, knowledge, and extortion of knowledge. And that's it.
Absolutely. So in a sense, I mean, really, you've kind of described what the platform is right there, haven't you? Like Mousai, it's on the blockchain, bringing together and essentially curating content on the blockchain. Would that be one way of saying it, or how would you describe?
Perfect way of saying it. Yeah. In the most simple or analogy is the SoundCloud of Web3, not necessarily going for the Spotify angle yet. That might come later down the line when licensing and rights management all works its way out. But yeah, Mousai is a streaming audio, video site, music, podcasts, maybe more audio features later, and like perhaps music lessons from celebrities or like
that would be
famous
cool.
guitarists or whatever, which I'm excited about. Like seeing all those great teachers out there on YouTube. Like, why not monetize it in a better way than YouTube, or trying to get people to your site, right, and selling another subscription. And Audience is out there as well, right? But they've been around for 4 or 5 years. They have their token, but they haven't really monetized anything for the artists yet. They keep talking about it, but it's not there yet.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we were excited to stumble upon DSO at the right time, and it's like, wow, this could go a long way of disrupting, you know, that creator economy for musicians, with the whole creator coin and diamonding and NFTs and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are tuning in, and if you haven't heard of DSO, because we're starting to expand out our reach into Web 3.0 and make sure we're getting the word out there of what's happening. Because I mean, in a sense, curating information is one of the great challenges of our time, right? To be able to get that good information. So at Clout Forum, that's something that we pride ourselves on making the effort to do there. And for those that are, if you haven't heard of DSO, I mean, decentralized social. Again, this is Clout Forum. We're built on that. We've been loving the platform. We've been there since the beginning for 10 months now, or whatever it is. And it's how we met you, Marlon, and what's being created. So for those that aren't aware, DSO is a decentralized social blockchain that is enabling so many innovative ideas that I think have been in the pipeline, right? You know, you would have had this idea, people have had these concepts, but not the tools to build them.
Exactly.
And so DSO seems to be.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it just came at the perfect timing for myself. And everything I've been wanting to do in the music space or the streaming space just came at the right time. You know, I've been in the streaming space for a few years now, and the dirty little secret, it's not really a secret, but in the OTT world, right, there's tons of streaming apps out there, but the only one really making money is Netflix. Even the Amazons and the Hulus, it's more of a loss leader, and everybody's struggling to make money there, and people are tired of subscriptions, they're tired of ads, and an old TV used to be based around branding of the channels. Like, here in the States, like NBC must see TV. That's not a thing anymore. Like, who cares what channel it's on? They care
Yeah.
about the actors or the show itself. And I've been racking my brain, like, how do you do that for video and music, like the gaming industry has done, with being a little bit more creative on the monetization, like with microtransactions and skins. But the capability was never really there to, you know, like have a personally branded video player or music player or a skin or whatever. But then DSO came along. I'm like, wait a minute, you can, there's creator coins where you can invest in artists or creators in general. There's diamonding, where basically a tipping mechanism, which is the micro transaction piece of it. There's a social piece, but music is all about community as well, right? There's finding your community, going to a show, that having that access to the artist, like this is it.
Fantastic. So how did you come across it? Like, how did DSO enter your world? I'm always intrigued by that. What's your origin story?
I actually came across it in podcasts. In 2 podcasts I listened to back to back, almost within a couple of days of each other. Both had mentioned it right from the start. It was the All In podcast, where Chamath is one of the hosts of that, and he's an investor in Big Clout, or DSO now, with Social Capital, and the MFM, My First Million, with Sean and Sam from The Hustle. They had mentioned it as well, literally like the next episode, because they had heard about it. And the initial interest is like, they were talking about the creator coins and how fast the creator coin values were shooting up. And like Sean on My First Million was like, yeah, I'm up like $20,000 today. I'm like, what is this thing?
It was like a gold rush, wasn't it? It was
make the music connection, or then I'm like, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of wild. I don't know how long that will last. But then I dug into it a bit more, and I'm like, yeah, this is more than just speculative gambling.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how long did it take between seeing those podcasts and then actually triggering that, wow, this is what I'm going to build Mousai on, and this streaming platform?
It probably took about 3 or 4 months, partly just because I was busy with other things. I didn't really think about it. And then the more I explored and just saw what was going past, like people pasting in YouTube links of their music, like, you know what, I could leverage this for what I'd like to do. And to give a bit of context there, I was actually building, or had built a site called ATX Music Fan. And this is during, or still in the pandemic, but at the middle of the pandemic, all the venues here closed in Austin, and Austin's the live music capital of the world, right? So a lot of the musicians were struggling, and they wanted to do something to kind of help the local community and the artists. So spun up the ATX Music Fan site, similar to my Mousai, curating local artists though, and I had added a way for them to tip the users, to tip the artists through PayPal Me, right? So you can put your PayPal Me in there, or your Venmo link, or whatever, right? But then, like you said, like 3 or 4 months later, it's like, you know what? This would work better with diamonds.
Because
it can expand it beyond, the local community.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, Marlon, because as you're saying that, I was getting the vision of thinking last time I went to the shops here, there's sometimes this, some buskers that sit out the front and play some music, and every now and then you get some real talent, some people that you sit there going, wow, and I'll reach in my pockets and there's no coins. Right. Yep. And it's that challenge of in the old days, it'd be like, as much coins as I had in my pocket, I would take all of it out and just drop it in there. But now we've moved into this digital world, notes, coins. It's just, and it really shows that, well, I could go back to my car and get some change out of the center console, right? Like that's one option, but it's one step too far. It's too much resistance. It's too much but I got to get to the shop. And so the brain just clicks over it, skips it. The artist doesn't get paid, and in I go. And
Yep.
it makes me really realize everything we're building and creating at the moment, how important it is to make it easy, right? And
As
simple.
friction free as possible. Yeah.
Friction free. Thank you. That's where
Yeah.
we're going. And so DSO seems to do that, right? With the tipping, where people can just have a wallet. They can use it for all their different other apps, social media apps like Diamond app, etc. All these other places they can interact and also easily share that content. Because that's another thing, isn't it? It's like making it easy to share some content. If I find a great song and it's just a couple of clicks and I've shared it out onto a social media network that I use,
All these socials.
I'll do that, right? But if I have to go through all this rigmarole and different things, and it's like, it's too hard. So that's what I loved about what I saw with Mousai when Alex and I had tuned in with you and we got to see, what you're building and creating there. Is it really seems like you are making the most of how DSO is creating a bridging platform for Web 3.0, like a transactional, platform that interacts and changes. So is it looking to be what you hoped it to be?
It is. And there's a few kinks to work out still, but I like the word you use there with the it being a bridge, and it might be canceled for saying this now by the decentralization maximalists or the Bitcoin maximalists. Like, if you're aware of the kind of controversial posts recently around identity and seed phrases and asking, not that DSO asked you for your MetaMask seed phrase or anything. So I think a lot of people that are talking about things don't really know what's being done there. Right. But like you said, it's a bridge, and like being able to sign in and create an account with your Gmail address, that is what is going to get the mass population into these kind of apps, right, on the blockchain. I mean, decentralization is great. I am all for it, 100%, but it's going to take a couple steps, I think, before the rest of the world adopt it. And I think DSO kind of brings that to the party.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I think,
again, it's a friction thing, right? Like having to create a wallet and transferring coins between 3 different services. And, this is a ETH-based app, not a Solana. So I got to not as a mess.
I got to go to a coin swap or an exchange, or I have to do this or that. And unless you're a crypto savvy person, it's the last thing you want to know about.
Yeah.
And
like,
so
we might be able to do it, but we're like the 1%, right? And it's exciting, and I think we'll get there. But
and even when we can do it, right? And even when we can do it, it doesn't mean we're going to, because if I have to go off to an exchange, it's like not right now, which means it's not getting done. It means I'd love to, but the realism, and this is something as I've just clicked over 40 this year, Marlon, and there's a certain level of realism in my life. My Peter Pan syndrome is fading away, and a bit of realism is coming in, and acknowledging, I would have been one of those decentralization maxis and the rest, previously, and it's from being checked by realism, right? That we have to say, well, in the end, we need people to use it, otherwise it will stay on the outskirts and we'll never get integrated.
And that's one of the lessons I learned early in my entrepreneurial career as well. Like you was more maximalist. Like I've always been more on a developer side, or originally more on a developer side, and tech manager, and then started consulting product company in the CG business, right?
I saw that. I saw Star Wars, Clone Wars. Is that right?
Yeah, I worked at Lucasfilm for a while.
Awesome.
And it was myself and a couple former colleagues from DreamWorks that started this company. We built this great production management software for animation, right? But we had that developer mind frame and mindset that if we build it, they will come, right? We're going to build the best product and people are going to see it and they're going to come knocking down the doors. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately, right? Like you need that marketing and to get the word out. And sometimes that means compromises and certain things, but that's the reality of the product world.
It's one of those things I often have pondered on the musings of like, for all the equality we can scream and all the rules and laws we can make, if you walk past a hungry lion, it's still going to eat you. There's we can theorize everything we like, but then there's the realism of taking it into the field, and seeing what actually happens though. And in the end, if people don't use it, the product doesn't stick. And that is
it's realism with the market, right? The market talks, right?
Yeah. And it's that balancing. It's hard for those that are very, have the big visions and the ideas to accept, because,
and I've been there.
Right. It's challenging.
I've been just as passionate. And it's great to have those visions and, to push for them and to make them happen. But
absolutely. And well, I guess one of the beautiful, sorry, you go ahead.
Sometimes it takes a bridge like these to get you there.
A bridge like DSO. It's almost like there's a song in that or a book in that.
There you go.
Yeah.
I should write that.
Yeah. So we can come up with.
The funny thing, like, I'm a sucker for a great bridge in a song too. So that even goes great bridges and big choruses, and you've got me.
Awesome. Absolutely. And, as far as bridges go, really looking at DSO, one of the reasons I went so all in on it. And, I've even got the old big Clout tat from when I first came on the platform and saw the kind of community and innovators, developers, the kind of mindset that was being attracted to this, that saw the potential of what was being created. The reason I did that, now I would never put a logo of a company, a brand or anything, but I really saw that this is something beautiful that's being created. And one of the consolations that I have is that no matter what gets built on top of it, no matter how centralized someone makes their app in that sense, as long as my profile, my data, and my funds are all in a decentralized environment, then I think that's the basis of Web 3.0, right? Is that, you can still, if you go to a nightclub, we're not demanding nightclubs be decentralized. I kind of want someone to be in charge of that. Like, I want someone to know what they're doing on that nightclub. But just as long as the nightclub doesn't control how much my money's worth, then we're good. So,
exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the most interesting things to me that I'm excited to see how it pans out around the whole decentralization piece, is the social experiment around it. And I've been in consulting professional services for a while, and social engineering is almost 95% of the job. Right? Going into a company, you have clients that they bring in a consultant, but they only want to hear what they want to hear. Right? And then you look internally, there's all the politics, and no one's aligned, right, on the objectives or goals, and everybody has their own personal agendas. So like this big social experiment of decentralization is going to be interesting. And I know you're going beyond DSO now, but like Nader, like I'm not sure if he was ready. I know he knows what he's getting into, but like, I mean, he has the world as his board of directors now. Basically, everybody can tell him how they think he should run his company and what's right and wrong. And so that's going to be really interesting how those dynamics play out, and not just with DSO, but in the Web3 decentralization and the crypto world. And how are people going to play nice and
how people going to play nice?
And even with like DAOs, right? They're decentralized, but there's still human nature involved there, as well, in terms of how much voting power you have, right? Is based on potentially how much you put in. So like figuring all of that stuff out is going to be interesting.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you, that I see this as one of the greatest experiments of mankind, like to see, and I think like
it's like I go in a company and it's hard to get 5 people to get aligned.
I know, right?
You open it to the world.
And this is kind of the argument for centralization that they'll try to keep pushing. And And so what I come to see is there's a gentleman named Ken Wilber that does a lot of work on integral psychology and integral theory, on how everything, like looking at the holistic way of humanity and how it works together.
Mhm.
And, he talks about the importance of self-awareness in organizations and being honest about your level of self-awareness, that
Yeah.
if you have a low level of self-awareness, which often happens in chaotic warlike times, you need a dictator. You can't entrust a large mass that has very low self-awareness to make good decisions if they're all running on fight and flight and survival mechanisms. So it's this challenge where we're about to see, I feel like we're about to see a good metric and almost like temperature check of where is the level of self-consciousness in the majority of our population and society, because it's going to get exposed in this, I think. And hopefully we'll be surprised, but we'll see.
And that actually has been the great surprise to me, and just on Diamond app or Big Clout or whichever app you choose. I actually go between all of them.
Yeah.
Clout feed, Slick, depending on the mood I'm in that day. But just the general discourse amongst the community has been amazing. And compared to Facebook, I can't even open Facebook anymore just because of all the political crap. And I can consider myself somewhat of a worldly person. Like I lived in Asia and London and New York, LA, Canada, wherever, right? So I have a diverse set of friends, and it's really interesting to see like different perspectives and personalities come out, and people like fighting. Like I actually have friends that are like that or like that, right? And it's like, I don't want to deal with any of that.
Right.
Can we all just get along, right?
Do you remember Marlon?
And like Twitter's the same way, right? Twitter's become battles.
It's a dumpster fire, that one. And on one level, it's almost like a catalyst for self-awareness. It's almost like it's triggering this discomfort in the collective that has gotten to a point where, we need to take self-responsibility. Remember, you don't need to log in. It's actually a choice. But everyone else is on. Still don't have to. We got to take responsibility somewhere. And this is something where, like, I'm pretty safe to say that you'll remember, like me, the days before we had mobile phones in our pockets, right? Before we were getting texted and messaged all the time. When you made an appointment and we said, Marlon, let's meet up for a cuppa, 10 o'clock on Tuesday. You had to be there, or you can't call someone to tell them you're late. You just had to, they're not here. 20 minutes late, I have to make a decision, right? And you didn't get to choose your friends as much, right? Like you had friends that had complete opposite political leanings. But you were still friends, right?
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, this is the interesting thing with Facebook and everything else. It's kind of almost led things into being this divisive nature, the way it's been designed, the environment, because if we were doing it without, now all of a sudden it is. And I think what you're saying, Marlon, is so like on the head of the nail with this idea that on DSO, I've been seeing the same. It's why I'm still here. It's why I love that platform, and we do everything to grow the community with it, is because I'm seeing a certain level of self-responsibility and accountability and emotional regulation that's happening. And I think part of it is because people have skin in the game, right? They've got some investment in it. They are accountable to something. They've got a coin price. If you're going to be a complete dickhead, pardon my expression, then, people are going to sell your coin, except the people that like you being a dickhead. So now it means, well, okay, you can build up coin value and be that. But I think, again, the experiment, the social experiment you're mentioning, we get to see how valuable is being a dickhead compared to being a good person when we take it out of the hands of advertisers, social media, Facebook, the profit of that. So it's going to be fun.
Maybe it is valuable, right? But and then going back to diesel, that the great thing is, right? Like you could build the dickheads node, right? All the dickheads could go over there, right? And build their little bubble. And the nice guys could build their own node, right? And have their own feed at the nice guy node.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's
and everybody's still creating value for their tribe or their audience.
and this is that part where a certain level of centralization can happen to make sure that you create a safe space for that crew, and the dickheads can do the same. And then
Exactly.
everyone can
Yeah.
create, and that's the beauty of having centralized worlds built on decentralized foundation, right? Is that you still have freedom of choice, accountability, etc. Like if you want to go visit the dickhead node, go for it. Now
Right,
everyone can probably see that you're logging into the dickhead node with that wallet if you've said who you are. So we get to own it.
So I'm gonna put the challenge out there now for the platform community for the NFT artists. I want to see the nice guy wears dickhead node NFT art.
It should be a node that has a switch, like dark and light mode. What mood are you in? I'm in the dickhead mode. All right. I'll tell you what, sometimes be nice.
Instead of going between light and dark mode, just the theme color, right? It could be light and dark topics.
Yeah, and then you click dickhead mode, it goes into politics and all that kind of stuff, and everyone's firing each other up, and it's like, yeah, go for it, have some fun, get it out of your system. Everyone's voluntarily there. They click the switch.
I'm going to pitch that to Facebook. the theme mode, topic mode.
I think they'll be on that. So awesome, Meta. Man. So, oh my God. Don't mention that word on our podcast. We love them. Look, I personally believe no matter what it is, like they say, no bad publicity, no publicity is bad publicity, whatever they say. Yeah. Like on one level, this just needs to get people in. The conversation just has to start. When the conversation happens, I think naturally people orient towards the good of where we need to go, because it's what people benefit from in the end. Yeah. Now, talking about benefiting and the rest, bringing it back to Mousai, which is, your baby that you're bringing to DSO, you're building on here, this vision. So correct me if I'm wrong, but to summarize, it's essentially a streaming platform that is curating content. People can submit YouTube videos and links onto there. They can upload their own stuff, create their own profile, connect into their DSO account, which means, for example, if I use a friend, I've got two friends that are amazing musicians. Now, these are two musicians that I will be going to talk to about this, and I'll probably will even send this podcast. I will send them this podcast as well. So now, for them as a musician who's relatively new to DSO, they don't, or one of them's been doing a bit of work, Lee Grange. She's amazing in the Philippines. She does some work with Clout for him as well. And then I have another friend, Matt Gresham, who here in Australia his voice is like, it gives Jeff Buckley a run for his money when he's on point. And his soul is unreal, but he just hates record production companies the way they screwed him over at one point when he had a break, and doesn't want to go back into that world again. So he's been doing Facebook lives, playing, and like his lives are amazing. I used to always, one of the few that I'd tune in and actually make sure I listen to. He interacted really well. He was really genuine. If he was in a bad mood, he'd be smoking a cigarette, playing music on the guitar, just being himself in his apartment, nothing over the top. Yeah. But the problem was that, he had to ask for tips. Like people had to click a link that would take them, like you said, to PayPal, and then go through that. Yeah. And it was just too many steps. It was too far out. Or you have to scan a
QR code for Venmo or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And Venmo hasn't really caught off in the same way in Australia. It's not through people that I know. So we didn't even have that, which would have been probably a little easier. So that's kind of where a lot of musicians are at right now, right? With COVID and everything else that's happened, they've lost their traction in the industry and things.
A lot of the venues have closed down, like we mentioned before, and that's where a lot of the revenue comes from.
The live music,
generally,
right?
in the music industry, it's the live music, right? Music itself has become a commodity, unfortunately, right? Like the days of selling your record are gone, and that's something we're trying to change a bit with
bring back in, right? Yeah. So what would you say to someone like Matt Gresham, for example, and Lee Green, two musicians that are looking for something like this? Like how can they best get started and use it?
I mean, best way is to just create an account with Mousai using your DSO login. Next to your username, once you log in, there's a little settings bar, and you can select become an artist, and then go through that process to either claim an artist if you've already brought your content in pre-populated, or if you want to create an artist account, and you can get your music up there, like upload your MP4s, add your Big Clout DSO username, right? And you'll be all set up right now to start getting diamonds, right? Like, why get a like when you can get a diamond, which is monetary value? And then coming up real shortly, we're going to have DSO NFT integrations as well. So artists can create NFTs within the app and offer them to their fan base. And like, just alone with that side of things, or that's limitless of what you can do. And seeing guys like Clay Perry and Tropics and the success they've had out there already. And it could be everything from selling tickets to a concert, or offering a special like cover art, digital cover art, all kinds of ideas there. And longer term, what I'm really excited about is moving to a stream to own model. So the stream to own model, right, is like we mentioned earlier, people are kind of tired of getting ads or having to manage their 10 subscription services to get all the music or all the content they want. So this is a way to change that, like through a microtransaction model, and to get the artists paid, but also fair pricing for to consumers or to users. So the idea here is with a music lover or streamer comes to the site, finds an artist that they want to listen to. The first time they listen to that track, they'd be automatically deducted the equivalent of about 2 cents in DSO, right? Every time they listen to that same track, it doubles up to 9 transactions. So if they listen to it 9 times, after that, they've spent about $1's worth of DSO. And this is where the owning part comes in, right? So now you own that track. So if you listen to that song again, you're not paying for it. And you can download it if you want to put it on your phone or anywhere else. But what's interesting here is with that dollar, it's like buying a song on iTunes, right? And the artist is going to get most of that money. We'll take some of it just to keep the servers and up and running, but it's going to be a minimal amount. It's not going to be 30%. Like Apple will probably be closer to like 10%, if that, right? So they're getting 90 cents for someone listening to your song 9 times, right? To get 90 cents from a Spotify is about 300 listens. It's even worse for YouTube, right? And if you're not a Beyonce or any of the other big stars, you're not going to get a fair shake either way on Spotify, right? What they do is they take all the subscriber revenue and they divvy it up based on amount of streams. So that's always going to favor the people on the top, right? And if I'm a local artist, but I have a great local fan base, right? If I bring 1,000 fans onto Spotify, I'm not going to get my money's worth or for bringing 1,000 fans to Spotify, right? You're going to get a few dollars maybe a year. Whereas if you have 1,000 diehard fans that are on Mousai that all buy your album, right? That or listen to your album constantly, you're getting your fair share there. It's like selling them a CD or a download. But again, going back to why DSO is so exciting, it allows us to have artists monetize their entire stack of fans. Like we call it the pyramid, right? So at the bottom level, you have the creator coins, right? So maybe someone's not a fan, but they know you have some buzz, right? They might invest in your creator coin just as an investor, but they don't really care, but there's an option. So that'll be there, right? You can buy creator coin on Mousai now, right? Then you have the more casual fans that maybe they discover you and they're listening to Mousai radio, which is like random songs played, right? And like, hey, this song is great. They're not going to buy your album, but they might send you a diamond or two, right?
Mm.
you're monetizing that rather than your song on the radio or getting less than a penny on from Spotify. Right. Then the next level up, it's more your core fans, right? These are the folks that buy your concert tickets. They're not the people that just listen to your hit song or your hit single. They buy every album, right? And these are folks that you can sell your NFTs to, right? Your limited edition poster or cover art, VIP experiences, chat, or whatever you can come up with, right? Creatively offer those as collectibles, NFTs. And then you have your top tier, your super fans, right? These are the folks that buy like the $2,000 meet and greet with Kiss or whatever.
Yeah.
You can monetize them as well using the NFT collectible thing as well, right? Like, hey, if you own this much of my coin, or this NFT is whatever X floor price, you get concert tickets to my shows whenever you come to your town, or you get the VIP experience, right? Or a one of one, limited edition, or a custom track, right? See, and that's the amazing thing, right? You can monetize every potential fan, or every potential listen.
Thank you for breaking it down, because it's like just right there, it's almost like Lego. You've just given the key ingredients, and now it's like, make it up. It's like, have fun.
And you don't need a record company.
You don't need a record company. Like, this is huge. So, because this is something like Matt, for example, Matt Gresham, he's got a worldwide fan base these days. So really it sounds like the first job is to sign up their artist profile, get it set up and rigged up. Yeah. And then after that, start sharing that when doing like a Facebook Live video, for example, saying, hey, you can go check out my music over here and I get rewarded for it. So encourage them to start onboarding and sharing over, which I think, Alex, I'll be putting together a bit of a how-to tutorial. I think would be a good idea. I'll add to Clout. We get on the Clout Forum archive. So that'll be a video we can send to our artist friends as well and say, hey, this is how you set up a profile. Here's one you can send to your fan base, because then the fan base can have one show them how to sign up easy. Now, can they buy DSO on Mousai right now?
They can. It's somewhat of a roundabout way where it gets linked to like the old big clout.com site.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we plan to integrate that soon. And besides NFT, the one big thing we're working on right now is the whole onboarding experience and making that as friction-free as possible. And signing up for a DSO account is like that simple now, especially if you have a Gmail address, right? So we have that covered. Like signing up for DSO, signing up for Mousai, it's 2 clicks. What we really want to solve for now is topping up of your DSO account and making that as friction-free as possible, because you still have to go through a couple loops to top up. Now you have to go to a separate site, right? And you have to go transfer from Bitcoin to DSO and all that. And I'm technically not allowed to buy it in Texas, so I put my old California address.
Nobody heard that.
Nobody heard that. So we want to solve for that, and we're racking our brains and working with the DSO community, Megan and Alex, and how we can potentially do that. But yeah, we want to make it like and we say like it's built on this DSO or integrating DSO, but we want to bring it to the world, not just for DSO itself. The current community. The current community is great, but like the artists need exposure and like
absolutely
get it out there.
Well, Marlon, I think this is a shift we're seeing even in the community. It seems again, it's this idealism, realism. Life has its contractions and balances, and really seeing that DSO, like if it succeeds, no one should need to know what DSO ever was. In a way, it's like it's the architecture that builds the foundations of things.
Exactly.
Whereas it's such a big thing for us now because we're all the developers, we're the creators, we're the people wanting to grow. But it is this thing, we need it to become almost like invisible, and that it's part of what helps make these things happen, right? Because the goal isn't for us to all bring the entire world to DSO, is to bring the functionality of DSO into the whole world and integrate with everything else, right? Yeah. And I think
like you said, like all someone should care about is their login, right? Their DSO login. and she'll be single
Yeah,
sign-on to the world, basically. That's it.
absolutely. And again, we're so early that like 10 months in, like this is going to evolve. Solutions are going to come. It's all part of that
Yeah.
process. And what I'm loving as well, Marlon, is not only is this going to be great for the musicians and the artists on the platform in DSO, it's going to be great for onboarding musicians and artists from off DSO to come in
Oh,
without needing to be
exactly.
part of all this other stuff. But it also means that somebody who's super fan of music that might live somewhere where, a bit of a socioeconomic challenge, right? Like they don't have huge amounts of spare cash and the rest. They can't sign up to Spotify. So they're having to listen to these free things full of advertising and all that crap. And I mean, it does my
YouTube.
head in, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So those people that don't have that kind of money, the beautiful thing that I'm loving at what I see here is not only are you making something that's great for the artists, but the listeners, the users of
Yes.
Mousai that want to listen, they can go join up, for example, a podcast. Join up like Diamond App or BitClout
Yep.
or one of these many other things. They can create art NFTs. Maybe they can create simply by doing good content and posts. They can get paid in diamonds. That in turn, they might not make a huge amount from just doing everyday stuff. But like you said, if it's only a couple of cents for a song, then every time you get a couple of cents for a post, that's an extra song you can listen to. So now you're actually creating a way.
It adds up quickly.
That's pretty awesome.
It's amazing. Even just with the Mousai account, just like when we post our featured artists, and there's always a ton of diamonds that come our way. And it's like amazing, right? And it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah,
You'd be
it really does.
Especially if you're a musician used to the 0.02 cents for a listen, if you get that. Right, that's the thing as well. Like with Spotify, most of their content, or a lot of that content, is through the record companies, and I mean Spotify is great. Right? They have a ton of content. It's a great interface. They have almost every song on the planet that you can imagine, and although their royalty system, there's some room for improvement. It's not all their fault, right? Like they're actually paying quite a bit of money. It's just getting stuck with the labels, right? And it's not going to direct to artists, and that's the difference between, like a SoundCloud. Now there's no monetization there, but you could put your stuff out there. But now with Mosaic, you can actually monetize that. Like, why not get that? Like,
absolutely. And I think when you compare it to SoundCloud, I love that comparison, because SoundCloud has always felt like, when I've gone to festivals and things like that, the young musicians, the artists, the DJs, all those, they're using SoundCloud to get their content out there, and the only money they're making is if they get hired for a festival or something. It's a very rare thing to make money. Whereas again, right here, you're really making this open to so many. So I'm excited to see that.
And I think like with SoundCloud, you're actually and they offer you a free plan, but a lot of artists actually have to pay to upload their content. I think there's a limit of like 10 tracks or something.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact details, but I know I had to sign up because I had uploaded too many tracks, and I don't have that many.
Absolutely right. So this is awesome. So one of the big questions I have for you is, what's the roadmap look like for a phone app? Because at the moment, am I correct, it's only on browser?
Or? It's only, it works somewhat in like as a mobile web app, but there are plans, and I'm actually expecting an iOS and Android app very shortly. It's more of a POC where it's a conversion, but I'll definitely put you on the top of the list to try it out.
Please do, please do.
I'm hoping it works as well as promised, but yeah, the idea is, I mean, this is more of a temporary, solution to get it in the hands of people and get the artists out there and make it easy to listen to in the car, or on your run, or wherever. But once we get a bit additional funding, the plan is to go full out.
Fantastic.
Native apps.
Fantastic. No, absolutely. Because I think that'll be the big kicker, that obviously once we get to a native app, it just makes it so much more simple for what person to bring. So, but I mean, this is the development, right? There's always the early
Yeah, yeah.
adopters. There's the ones that get in. The musicians who come in now, they've got a chance to build themselves a name for themselves on the platform and be part of that, right?
And
So,
we love that feedback, right? So for all your early adopters, all the great artists that have signed up, like send us your feedback, and I'll send you the link as well, Mark and Alex. If you want to
fantastic.
post the Discord server that we set up. Low
Yeah.
traffic right now, but that just means you'll get heard quicker.
Yeah.
But yeah, send us your feedback, and you can help guide the direction for that roadmap and really make it great for artists. Right, the artists are the lifeblood of it, and like
Absolutely.
we didn't cover it earlier, but my dad was a musician, so that's part of the inspiration.
Ah.
For it, and like he had a bit of success as a session player and live player, but seeing like the highs and lows of an artist, right? And I've always been racking my brain. I'm like, there's got to be another model where an artist can make a living, right? It's not a ton of money and then 20 years of nothing, right? Like
suffer and
eating
struggle,
hot dogs
right?
and beans for right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's always like I've seen both sides of it. So and I've had millions of crazy ideas, but hopefully this is the one that makes it happen.
Well, I think, Marlon, you're definitely creating something where there's a real need in the community out there in the world. I mean, the potential for this solution, to lead this is huge. It really is. Like I say, I genuinely was so grateful myself to have met you and to be able to get the inside view, because I like so many of us, we've got friends who are musicians that we love dearly and have watched us sit there, and now all of a sudden with Mousai, where I've got this opportunity where not only can I go out to my friends like Matt and Lee and say, hey guys, now you can start monetizing your community in a really healthy, authentic way that works for everyone, but also I get to invest in your coin by helping you do it. And as you become famous, I'll naturally make some money from my investment and it won't cost you a cent. So it's like sweat equity is being paid for now, where everyone is, rewarded for helping each other.
And yeah, it's so amazing. It's going back to like music and community, like trying to bring that back, the value in music, not just the monetization, but that community piece of it too, right? Like with the Spotify's, just having all that content really available, it's become so casual, right? Like it's not that old days where you go to the record store and get that CD or the vinyl, right? There's an album, and like that experience is gone. It's like it's almost like everything is background music.
Right.
And
that's a good way of explaining it. It has become like background music.
Yeah, it's like
it's
so
true.
There's a lot of it sounds the same. And it's like all elevator music or background music. And like I'm trying to bring that experience back. Right? And like one of the greatest things I always loved was like sharing like new finds or new discoveries, like talking to a friend about like a new band and tying it back to your use, like being able to invest in our artists, like and being able to share that and go along for that ride. Like it's such a mutual win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. It's a very organic, self-rewarding, it just takes care of itself. And I think that's a magical thing. And it's fair, because in the end, everyone can put in the energy they want to put in.
Exactly.
And the last thing, before just being aware, we need to start. I always end up, I could talk, Marlon, for hours and hours, but I've got to give Alex a bit of room.
I'm all yours.
To have some good chats. But one thing that, as you said, I think is so important to what we're seeing in Web3 and the metaverse and all this kind of conversation is it's like we're seeing a return of the retro age, right? We're seeing so much of the retro stuff from the 80s and 90s and these early stages coming out around tech and everything, but just in general. And I think you're spot on. The thing that we're missing in the world right now is experiences. We've gotten all this like abundance of like all the music in the world you could want, and you start realizing, well, it wasn't just the music. It was the experience of sharing the music. It was the experience of watching the music get delivered live. It was And so all of a sudden,
It's like the album, like the having that cover art.
Whereas, and like NFTs have a potential to start filling this gap in creative ways, right? Like you see the people that have the digital picture frames or, paintings on the wall, and they're NFTs. It's like, well, you can now have album covers in a way displayed in the same way. Like I own that album cover. I own 1 of 10 of that collector's album cover. It's in a digital picture frame, but it's mine. It's an NFT, right? So it has that charm that can be brought back. That's awesome.
Yeah, and whoever thought that digital would bring that back.
Yeah, right. The irony
is
usually the very thing that took it away.
It makes a disconnect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming into the ending of our section together, Marlon, which I say this to so many of my guests. I am so lucky, Marlon. I get this job just to sit and talk to amazing creators. This is why I love DSO, because we get to just meet the cutting edge of innovation of people that are looking always forwards at what's next, what's the solution. So please, anyone watching this, listening to this, get involved, check out what's going on with Marlon. We'll make sure I'll have the website under here for where they can go check out Mousai and everything. But with all that being said, Marlon, what do you have coming up? What is it you most want to make sure people are aware of with Mousai? What's coming that might get them big excited and the rest?
Yeah, so we mentioned the NFT and onboarding integration. Really excited about that. The big news or announcement potentially, not related to the app, but somewhat is. There may be a community event coming up in Austin at the end of January, early February. It's still in talks, but together with the Mousai team and Paul O'Brien and Media Tech, which I'm also a part of, we've been talking with some folks, and something might happen. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. There may be some special artists there, perhaps from the community. So it could be really exciting. No promises yet because it's still being talked, but so that's really exciting.
So where's the best place for people to follow to get that info to be updated on?
Just follow the Mousai account or my Marlon JM2K, and usually share on both. And I'm sure the word will get out there. And then just brought on another developer. He's only doing about 20 hours a week, so not full time, but we're hoping to accelerate some of the development. So you'll see lots coming, and I'm really excited to.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Marlon.
Get all that out there. Yeah,
that's brilliant, my friend. Thank you so much for your time chatting with me in this part. Really looking forward to what's coming. I genuinely this is one of those projects that has re-inspired me around DSO and seeing how it can really start hitting that mainstream and hitting that palette in a way that people are going to be excited. So, and help, it's like people, we need a bit more help in the world right now, and you're doing so. Thank you so much. All right. So Alex, my friend, you ready to rock and roll and take?
This is the scary part. Alex with his, I don't know if I'm prepared for this.
You're definitely prepared. I'm trying to shift my questions to a more gentle way, so I hope you like them. So you were talking about NFT feature coming to your platform, and the one thing that I would like to ask you is about NFT projects on this. So if they were happening, a massive giveaway from NFT projects, which one NFT would you really want to win? No worries, take your time. Just
the honest thing, I've been trying to stay away of the whole profile pick thing. I believe in the originals. Right?
Clout. So what it's gonna be?
Natterhead, maybe.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
For just because of what Natter has done. So this is supporting Natter.
I know it was a tough question, but you've managed to ask it very successfully, man. Let's jump into another question. If you could have personally witnessed anything, what would you want to have seen? I mean, any event in the history.
Any event. Wow. Yes. Yeah, that's a tough question. I'm going to keep it in the music theme. And I would have loved to be at the Isle of Wight Festival in the UK, back in the day, or Woodstock.
Wow. Good choice. Good choice, man. Okay. Have you ever been pulled over by police?
No comment. Yes.
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 What happened then?
The most recent one. No. No, it doesn't happen often. I actually was pulled over maybe about 6 months ago. I had moved to Austin from California, and with the pandemic, the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, it's tough to get an appointment. So my registration had expired, and I got a ticket for that.
I see. Yeah, that's a regular thing. There is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. The funny story, if you want to.
Yeah, that would be cool.
My wife is Canadian, right? So we've gone up to visit her family in Saskatchewan quite a bit over the years. And a long time ago, when I was in high school, probably 14 or 15, yeah, it was before I had a car. My friends and I were wandering around. We were actually headed to Blockbuster Video to rent a movie. And we were walking to my friend's house, and we walked by this house that had been under construction for ages. And one of the guys in the group said, like, "Oh, what are they doing in there?" So we decided to walk through the house, right? Didn't think anything on it, and we walked out, kept going to Blockbuster around the corner, got our movie, started headed back. 6 cop cars pulled up, put it against the wall. This is Beverly Hills, so that they had some context. Yeah, and brought us into the station and everything, right?
The same as in the movie, right?
Yep, and no charges were pressed or anything. They called our parents, they called the owners of the house, and they let us go, right? So then the tie back to Canada thing, literally 20 years later, 25 years later, driving up to Canada, and the Canadian Border Patrol has always made me nervous and gives me a hard time. I don't know why they always pick on me, right? But they start asking the usual questions, like, have you ever had a DUI? No. Like, have you ever had any issues with the police or anything like that? It's like, no, right? But they probably could tell I'm nervous. So and I actually like got out 5 minutes before the border and made my wife drive to avoid having to deal with that. But of course, I think they were probably listening, right, to the conversation. They pick up on the nervousness or something, and they asked my wife to pull over, right? And then a couple minutes later, the border patrol pulls up to the side of the passenger door and knocks on the window and tells you to get out of the car. Like, oh God, what is this going to be, right? And he pulls me aside and he starts getting into me, like, how can I trust you? And you said you've never been in any trouble with the police. What is this? It looks like you were arrested. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, in 1992. It's like, oh. and literally like he would not let it go, right? Like, how can I trust you? Like, you haven't done anything else, and why should I let you into the country? And he's like, you're lucky that you were a juvenile then, and that I can't hold you back from entering the country because of this. I'm like, one, it shouldn't have even been on the record. This should have been expunged because no charges filed. They're never actually booked or arrested. But watch out for those Canadian Border Patrol. They know everything.
But this is sure lifetime memory, lifetime stress crossing the border of Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually have their own show too. I don't know if it's on Netflix, but yeah, Canadian Border Patrol.
You'll need to see it. What kind of sickness have you lied about so you wouldn't go to work?
I don't know if I ever realized.
This is where we're gathering blackmail, Marlon.
Yeah. I don't know if it's probably a hangover. back in the
It's not a secret.
yeah, well, it was. The thing is, at that time, I would still like all those times were like in my college job when I was working at a movie theater and hang out with friends and party all night. And this was in Arizona. My friend lived out in the desert and he had these great parties. His dad was really cool. And yeah, but I'd actually still show up for work. I just try to take as many breaks as possible in the break room.
Yeah, but you know, I have some friends while I was a student, and they come up with different ideas. What happened to them? Even saying that they got cancer and they had to go to hospital to check it.
Oh wow!
Luckily, it wasn't there, and so on and so forth. So yeah, those students are very creative.
Wow. Yeah, the funny thing is that I worked at the studio at one time in India, this animation studio, and the excuses that the artists came up with were amazing. Right. And a lot of it actually were like true, but just being in India as well, and like some of the large families, right, that you have there. So it's like almost like every week, like somebody in a family died and needed like a week, a couple of days off. It's like, how many cousins and aunts do you have? And why are they all passing away?
Oh.
Right when the overtime had started and we were on a deadline. Like, it's funny how that happens.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah. Okay, let's jump to another three last questions that I have for you. And the first one of them is, what's the best compliment you have ever received, and for what?
Sorry, what was that? My dog was scratching.
The best compliment that you ever received?
Best compliment I've ever received. Ooh, yeah. Honestly, some of the feedback, it's not direct compliment of me, but a lot of the feedback I've been getting lately on Mousai has just been incredible, especially from all the million crazy ideas that I've come up with before. So it's actually really rewarding to hear all the positive feedback on the app from all kinds of folks. And it's not just friends and family this time that deal with my crazy ideas, harebrained ideas. And I've got some negative feedback on the names. Somebody said it reminds them of like a mouse. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's fair. But I think this is one of the better names. I've had some bad names for some of my entrepreneurial activities before. I once came up, I had built a auction site similar to eBay, but for children's clothes. Like we just had our son and we had all this stuff like he's growing out of and the toys. I'm like, yeah, really, at the time there wasn't really anything to like sell your old stuff, right? And all the good names were taken, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I named it Infant Exchange, right? So
it's cool.
I put it so everybody thought it was like some crazy, like, I mean, luckily, if I was lucky, they probably got an adoption site or something, but they thought it was like a child trafficking site or something. And like looking back, like, what was I thinking? Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking about your compliments on Mousai, they're totally deserved, well deserved.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you have a wall full of guitars, and what's the favorite song that you like to play with them?
That's like picking your favorite child.
No, I'm not talking to pick the guitar, but the song.
Oh, my favorite song? I can answer both. It's usually hard to like go through cycles, but favorite guitar would have to be this one, which is Sierra Alsip. And the only reason that comes to the top is because I was able to spec out the complete guitar. I picked everything, the wood, the color, the pickups. In a past life, I had a mobile app company, and so built some apps for musicians. And one of the guitar players I built the app for had an endorsement with this guitar company, this little boutique guitar company, and they saw Bill's app and they reached out. It's like, hey, I want an app like Bill, but can't afford it. I'm like, I'll take a guitar. And this is worth much more than the app ever would have been. And it was so fun. So favorite song I like to play. It'd have to be two that I played forever. All Right Now by Free. That's one of the first songs I learned. And then my 90s hair band Roots, one of my favorite bands growing up. I used to live right off the Sunset Strip. So part of that whole scene in the 90s with the Warrants and Poisons and all of that. So one of my favorite songs is Uncle Tom's Cabin by Warrant. So playing that intro to that, especially on the 12-string acoustic, as it sounds great. It sounds big and complicated, but it's not too complicated. So it's a fun one to show off with.
Is it okay to ask you to make it right now for us? Just a special.
Try. They're in tune.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome, man.
Really,
Thank you.
You cut that part out. Yeah, that's a guitar playing.
You played it well.
And you should feel really honored because I never play for people. I used to when I was in high school. And like one of my clients, they asked like every meeting they see, they're like, oh, he's gonna play it. I'm like, no. I don't know what I just did.
You need to put it this footage in NFT and sell it to your friends. So my last question, it's gonna be quite hard, I believe. If you would be given a choice to have a full access to Elon Musk Odyssey account on Twitter for one day, which one would you choose and what would you do with it?
Elon Musk or someone else, did you say?
Diesel.
Odyssey? Oh, I would do Elon Musk and pump up Diesel. Elon Musk has moved from Doge to Diesel and buying Mousai coin.
Yeah. Thank you so much for answering all my questions.
Your questions are always fun.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You've done a really well job. Thank you.
I tried.
Alex, thank you so much. It's so much fun. He's always got good questions, and I love sitting back and just seeing the answers. Your Elon Musk answer, you nailed it. All right, my friends. Hey, Marlon, thank you so much for coming on today. There's obviously so much more. You're a man of much depth. I can see that you've got so many different colors to the spectrum of your experience, which I would love to explore more and more as we go forwards. And hopefully one day I get to come visit in Austin and see you in person. So that'd be fantastic.
I'll take them out there too.
Invite's always there, Marlon. So we'll be doing our part to help get the word out with Mousai, and the rest. This will make sure you're notified when the podcast goes live. Please, everyone, follow Marlon, follow Mousai on DSO, and check out Mousai itself, which we'll have underneath here right now. You'll be able to see the website where you can go check it out, set yourself up an account and get started listening to music and getting your favorite artist friends on. So with that, Marlon, thank you. Alex, thank you. And to everyone listening, we really appreciate you. We'll be releasing an episode same time every week, the same place. So we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to join you guys.